Important questions from each poem in Treasure Chest 1. Haunted Houses, H.W. Longfellow. Question 1. What does Longfellow mean by, all houses wherein men have lived and died, are haunted houses? Longfellow suggests that every house where people have lived and died carries their presence in some form. He implies that the spirits of the dead remain in familiar places, though invisible to the living. 2. How does the poet describe the presence of spirits in daily life? The poet describes spirits as unseen yet present. He suggests they move through the air, whisper in the wind, and exist in the silent corners of houses, watching over the living. 3. What imagery does Longfellow use to convey the idea of supernatural existence? Longfellow uses imagery of empty halls, silent staircases, and shadowy corners to create an eerie yet peaceful atmosphere. He also mentions unseen figures moving through rooms and sighs heard in the wind. 4. What is the tone of the poem, and how does it influence the reader's perception of ghosts? The tone is reflective and melancholic rather than frightening. It makes the reader see ghosts as part of the natural cycle of life rather than as terrifying figures. 5. How does the poem reflect Longfellow's belief in life after death? The poem suggests that death is not an end but a continuation in another form. The presence of spirits in their old homes signifies that the soul lives on, maintaining a connection with the physical world. 2. The Glove and the Lions, Leigh Hunt. Question 1. Why does the lady throw her glove into the lion's den? What does this reveal about her character? The lady throws her glove into the lion's den to test the knight's bravery. This act reveals her as vain, manipulative, and selfish, as she values her amusement over his safety. 2. How does the knight react to the lady's test of bravery? The knight retrieves the glove without hesitation, but, instead of giving it back to the lady as a sign of love, he throws it in her face, showing his anger and disappointment. 3. What is the significance of the knight throwing the glove back at the lady? By throwing the glove back, the knight rejects the lady's shallow test of love. It signifies his realization that true bravery should not be proven for someone's amusement. 4. What lesson does the poem teach about love and trust? The poem teaches that love should be based on trust and respect, not manipulation. A partner should not demand unnecessary risks to prove their worth. 5. How does Leigh Hunt use poetic justice in the poem? The lady tries to test the knight, but her plan backfires when he humiliates her instead. This is an example of poetic justice. She is punished for her selfishness. 3. When great trees fall, Maya Angelou. Question 1. What metaphor does Maya Angelou use for great people in the poem? Angelou compares great people to large trees, symbolizing strength, stability, and wisdom. When such people pass away, it shakes the world just as the falling of a great tree disturbs nature. 2. How does the poet describe the immediate impact of loss on people and nature? The poet describes an atmosphere of silence, sadness, and confusion. People feel lost, unable to function normally, and the world feels empty without the presence of these great individuals. 3. What emotions does the poem evoke, and how does Angelou create these feelings? The poem evokes sorrow, grief, and ultimately hope. Angelou creates these feelings through vivid imagery, soft rhythm, and a gradual shift from despair to acceptance. 4. What is the message of hope in the final lines of the poem? The poet suggests that while loss is painful, the memories and influence of great individuals continue to inspire and guide the living, making their presence eternal. 5. How does Angelou use imagery to show the effect of losing someone important? She describes trembling air, darkened sight, and a world filled with emptiness. These images help convey the overwhelming impact of losing someone deeply influential. 4. A considerable speck. Robert Frost. Question 1. What does the considerable speck symbolize in the poem? The speck represents intelligence and life, no matter how small. It serves as a metaphor for the presence of thought and awareness, even in the tiniest beings. 2. How does the poet describe his reaction to seeing the tiny creature on his paper? Initially, he is about to brush it away but notices it moves with intention, showing signs of life and thought. He becomes fascinated and respectful of its existence. 3. What philosophical idea does Frost explore through the imagery of the speck? Frost explores the idea that intelligence, no matter how small, is significant. The poem suggests that all forms of life have purpose and consciousness. 4. How does the poem reflect the poet's thoughts on intelligence and consciousness? The poet admires the speck's awareness, realizing that even the smallest creatures possess intelligence. This reflection contrasts with human ignorance and carelessness. 5. What is the tone of the poem, and how does it change throughout? The tone starts as casual and observant but shifts to one of admiration and philosophical reflection, making the reader think deeply about intelligence and existence. 5. The power of music. Sukumar. Question 1. How does the poem depict the impact of music on people's emotions? The poem humorously exaggerates how music can deeply affect people, making them cry uncontrollably, dance, or even faint in extreme emotional reactions. 2. What role does humor play in the poem? Humor is used to show the dramatic power of music in a light-hearted way. It makes the poem entertaining while still conveying the deep emotional effect of music. 3. How does the poet describe the power of music using exaggerated imagery? The poet describes how music can make people sob uncontrollably, dance wildly, or become completely lost in emotions, adding an element of absurdity to emphasize its impact. 4. What is the central theme of the poem? The poem highlights the magical and overwhelming power of music, showing how it can deeply influence people's emotions and behavior. 5. How does the poet use rhyme and rhythm to enhance the musical quality of the poem? The poem follows a rhythmic flow, much like a musical composition. The rhyme scheme and beat mimic the movement of music, making the poem lively and engaging.